Hey everyone, it's Todd again. Today's tutorial is going to be on the controls for a control rig and how to create them. We'll go through both FK controls and IK controls. I won't do a whole character, it just takes a little while to do it. I mean, that's part of the kind of the tedious nature of rigging is it's just you're doing the same thing over and over again, but I'll show you both IK and FK and how to set that up. I do want to show you kind of once you have a control rig so I'll take this one. I'm going to drag it in here into my scene. Watch what happens. The first thing you'll notice is that it opens up the sequencer. You see suddenly I have all these controls. I mean, this is kind of what defines a control rig. So now I can actually animate in here. If I come in here, I can get all my controls. I can do that. Um, and then if I happen to have a rig that has IKFK, you'll notice as I toggle this on and off, I go from FK controls, which is that circle around the shoulder, elbow, and wrist, to suddenly just one control right here for IK and then a pull vector. So I can now control this like this, and if I want to, pivot that pull vector, I can move it and control where that elbow goes, you know. So, and then if I want, I can grab that IKFK switch it back, and it does a really good job of matching the pose. That has not always been the case with rigs in the past. So it's nice to have something like that right here with the control rig that they provide at Epic. So Epic actually has a control rig project that you can get for free off the marketplace. It has a bunch of different control rigs. This just happens to be one of them. Has some great features in here. If I come in here, let's see if I can find that foot. Yeah, so if I come in here, you can see I have foot roll on the foot. I can grab the tip of the toe and roll off the toe. This is an an IKFK leg setup as well. Obviously, most times you're going to want IK for the legs. Right now, it's not stretching. I believe there's a stretch control in here. So if I come in here, click stretch, and then click on this again, now I have a stretchy leg. You can see. So, if I wanted to grab let's see, this is the pelvis. Let's do body control. There we go. Yeah, you'll notice I now have a stretchy leg. So these are kind of cool controls, all the stuff that you can do if you're animating inside or utilize if you're animating inside of Unreal. And that's the great thing about having the control rig. When you do end up animating here in the sequencer, you have the ability to right click on it and come up to export. It'll export in FBX for you. This is kind of a great way to use your control rig inside of Unreal and be able to get reasonable content for whatever the projects that you're using. Anyhow, we're not going to be using this character. We are actually going to be using this character. And this character is available on the marketplace as well. Epic provides that here in this Stylized Character Kit. So I just grabbed that, brought it in here. We're going to go ahead and start with this character and go from there. So let me shut down this sequencer and jump back into our pre-made characters. So in the pre-made characters, here's my character, one of the characters that is available in that kit. If I just take my skeletal mesh, right click, come up to create, and then go over to control rig, it's going to create my control rig right here. And then if I double click on that and open it up, then you're going to see that I now have this character here. And the first thing that I can show, let's see if I have, I can show all the bones in the hierarchy, just like that. And I may actually keep those visible just so that it's a little bit easier here as we animate or as we rig. So I have my root. This is something you'll do all the time. You just right click on the joint that you want to, or the bone that you want to create a control for. Go to new and then new control. And then you have this new control that pops up down here. I'm going to go ahead and unparent it because I want it to be outside of the hierarchy. I want it to actually not be driven by the rest of this. So, and then over here to the right, we have the ability under shape properties. I can actually change that to, I'm going to make it a triangle, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can see it. Let's say something like, I don't know, 12.5, and then we're going to rotate it around the z-axis by, let's say, 45? No, let's say 180. There we go. So it's pointing forward. And now I have my root control. You can change the color over here. If you wanted, it to be green or red or blue or whatever color you want, you can set it up that way. If you want to change, obviously the shape, we already did that. You can see that here. All of these controls here in the shape transform allow you to modify where the shape is positioned. So the actual control or the pivot of that shape is going to stay right there when you're moving the shape transform. So you'll notice that you have two different transforms here. You have this one and you have the shape transform. This one is specifically just for that shape. So that allows you to kind of offset it from the bone if you want. Like sometimes for the head, you'll see that I move the circle or whatever I'm going to use for the head control up above the head so you can see the face pretty easily. But then the pivot is still down here at the base of the neck where you rotate, the head from. Okay, so let's see, now that we have the shape, it still isn't connected with this root. It doesn't actually do anything if I move it or do anything like for the rest of this body. So I'm going to drag that over here and I'm going to get that control because we want to get that position wherever it is, and we want to set the position of our root. So let's drag that root over here and we're going to set that, and I'm just going to drag this into this value just like that. And if I set these up just like that, now when I come in here and I move this like this, it moves that character. So and I can undo and pop it back. So that's the basics of setting up a control. Now let's go ahead and set it up for multiple joints or bones at the same time. So we're going to do the pelvis, the spine, O1, O2, and O3. Let's collapse the clavicles just to not deal with those right now. And then we're going to do the neck O1 and the head. So I got 6 joints here. I'm going to right click. We're going to go to new again. But this time, notice that little pop-up that comes up. It says if you alt click, you can access additional settings. So I'm going to alt click or just hold down alt. And then it says add controls for selected options. I click on that and it opens up this additional window. Now in this window, you have multiple different output formats. You can have hierarchy, you can have a list, or you can have child. So the hierarchy, it's going to keep them all in a hierarchy, parented as they are kind of now. If you make it a list, it's just going to create a control for each of these and put them all, outside of this hierarchy, but all listed as siblings of one another. There's not going to be any parent-child relationship. And then child would just be underneath each of these controls would be a control. So I want it to stay as hierarchy. I want the suffix to be _CTRL or control. And so I'm going to hit OK. Notice how all of them pop down under here, and I have them as a hierarchy set up, just like we did before. And so now all of these by default are red. Now that if you have your center controls, you might want your controls on one side of your body to be one color and the other side to be another color and the center to be a third color. You can do it that way. If you want, right to be red and left to be, I don't know, uh, what begins with L, that would be a color. But you could do some, green on the left, or let's do blue on the left and red on the right. So for the center, we'll just do green. So I'm going to set all these up. I'm going to change all of them to green. Say OK. And then for the pelvis, I'm going to do maybe a big square. Let's do that. And we want that to be a little bit thicker. Let's do for all of these actually. Let's do before I do that, I'm just going to do the pelvis for right now. Let's rotate that about the y-axis by 90 degrees. And then we're going to scale it uniformly by, let's say, 10. That's too big. Let's say 5. And so now we have our pelvis control. And then for the spine all the way up to the head, we're going to do circles. So let's just do a circle like that. I'm going to rotate them 90 as well. And I'm going to scale them by 5. Let's say 4. That looks a little big. And there you have it. And so you set it up like that. Now I can go into the individual controls like the head, and I can change that to be, let's keep scale locked there, and I'll do, let's say 3. And then I want to offset it in Y a little bit. So if I go to Y and just go, let's say 2, like that. And then I'm going to go in X and say 10. Let's go 20. So it's up there. So now notice the pivot for that is still right here, but the control is up here. So when you select it, this is where your gizmo for rotating and translating is going to be actually located. And then he looks like he's standing straight up. So sometimes I like to, for the controls, I might want to come in here and modify these controls so they don't look like they're all going in opposite directions, even though the joints technically are rotated, a bit differently to face down, so that the x-axis is facing towards its child. I might want to modify these controls just so they look like they're a little bit more aligned with one another. So I might come in here for this control. We might want to move it forward in Y. Let's say, again, 2, maybe 4. Again, that looks pretty good. And then I might want to rotate it. That looks pretty good, actually. And so let's grab this one. And I might just want to rotate this. Let's see, we're rotating it in Z. And this is a little funny. It's a rotator. So let's add 5. See, that's weird. Let's go 10 and -10. Sometimes it's hard to get rotators to do what you want. So you just do, sometimes I'll just do 2, 4, 4. Let's do 5, 4, 4. Let's see, -5, -10, -5. It's different each time. And if you zero it out, you don't get anything because you're adding to it. So there we go. That's a little bit better. So now we have something that's a little bit more in line with the rest of the torso. You get the idea. I sometimes just come in and play with it and try and get the controls to be, -2. There you go. If you use small increments, sometimes it works a little bit better. So I come in here and I might want to go -2. Let's do +2, +2 again. There you go. And so you get it something like that. So now you have something that's a little bit more aligned. So now that I have my controls set up, I'm going to grab all of these controls and I'm going to bring them down here, and I'm going to get those controls. All right. And then I'm going to come up here, my pelvis, down my spine, neck and head. I'm going to drag those over here, and I want to set these controls. So you'll notice if I grab these and come up here, and we want to get rid of that one, do this, and I'm a little far zoomed out. Let's go a little bit closer, and move this over. Just like that. And there we go. So now all we got to do is just connect these like this. I know this is kind of the more tedious part of rigging, but what can I say? That's the way it's got to be done. That's part of the reason why I'm not doing the full rig, and we're just going through some of the basics, give you an idea of how it's done. So there you have it. So there's your rig setup. Oh, didn't get all of these. Okay. So now he looks fantastic, right? So hold on one second. If I parent my, let's do this. Let's come back in, and before I connect these two, I want to set my pelvis under my root, and then do it like that. And so now he suddenly jumps to this position. So why is he jumping to that position? Let's see. So let's verify that all of our, so we have our root control here. Just want to make sure I'm connecting the right things. So pelvis, oh, head, pelvis, that's what happened. These are all out of order. The head should be down here, and all these should be over here. So we will set it up again. That's weird. I haven't had that happen that way before, where it suddenly lists them out of order, but that's okay. It's a simple fix. Just come in here like this, and we'll make sure spine 03, spine 03, spine 02, spine 02, and here we got spine 01 like this, and looks like he's looking right again. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that can happen if you, obviously, if you are controlling the wrong bone from the wrong control. So now that you have them all set up like that, and they're all in there, we can go ahead and do one of the IK legs. So if we want to do the legs, all you have to do really is do it like this. So we have our thigh. We can do we'll do the left thigh, let's say. So we have our right one here. I'm going to get rid of these, and I'm going to go to the calf, which is basically our knee joint, and then I'm also going to do the foot here. And for these two, I want to have a control, because you noticed with the control rig that's provided by Epic, they have on the like the arm, for example, you have your pull vector, which would be where the elbow is, just out from the elbow, and then you have the control for the hand. So that's all we're going to use. We're going to have this foot here and here under the calf. So we're going to right click, go to new, and say new control. And that just puts them right there where they're at, right underneath where they were before. And so if we don't want that, we can undo that and go back to the way it was before. Let's do that. So it takes a little minute to do that. We can go to calf, left foot, right click, new, come down here, and then alt click and choose this option. And now it creates it down here. And I can actually take this control and I should have done it as a list because I don't want them to actually be, I don't want the foot to be underneath the calf. I want the calf to be underneath the foot. So because when I pivot or when I rotate the foot, because typically when you're animating, you'll animate, with the IK effector, the end effector. So it'd be like the foot or the hand, and the pull vector will just go along for the ride. And then if you want to offset the elbow or the knee in that case, then you can offset it by positioning it. But in most cases, you're not playing with it a ton while you're animating. So we have our two controls. Again, I'm going to go into foot control. Let's make this a box. And I'm going to do box thick. And then let's see what we want it to be size-wise. Let's make it, say, 2. That's fine. I'm going to offset it in Y by, I don't know, 2. And I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. No, it's probably fine. And if I wanted to, I guess, in Z, I could make this 1.5, something like that. And in X, I guess I could do that as well. Say 1.5. And then I want to move it down in X a bit more. Say, let's say, I want to go -2, -4, something like that, and offset it in Z. I'm just trying to position it a bit. So say -2, no, -1. So there, it's positioned pretty good. And in Y, I just want it to be, I don't know, let's say 3.5. Nope, 3. And I'm going to move it out in Y by 2. No. How about 4? Oh, it's rotating it, my bad. Let's say 4, 6, something like this. Maybe 7. Okay, so you have something that kind of represents the foot right there. And then for the calf, we're actually going to make this a pyramid. So let's just grab that pyramid and do it that way. And then I want to rotate it around Z by 90. And that way it's pointing in the direction of the knee. I kind of like to have my pull vectors pointing in the direction that the knee is pointing or the elbow is pointing. And then here is kind of the one exception with pull vectors. You're not as concerned about the pivot, right? So I can just grab that pull vector itself, and I want to move it out here like this. So I've now moved it out there, but I need to make sure it stays out here. So I need to right click and then set offset transform from current. And that way it stays out there. And now if I move this, it's going to move this as well. And when I rotate it, it'll move that as well. And so it gives you that ability to do that. But we now have to set up the control. So let's drag this out here. I'm going to set up a sequence, and the first one's going to go up here to this, right? And then our second one is going to come down here to our basic IK. So basic IK is really simple. All you're basically doing is doing hip bone, knee bone, foot bone, or ankle bone, essentially, right? So if this is your IK, it's top of the chain, middle of the chain, bottom of the chain, right? So let's come in here, grab the left thigh, and then if I just grab this little button here, this arrow, it's going to place that bone in there. If I go to left calf, this is the knee, and I can just click this right here. And if I go to left foot, or foot left, I guess it's called, I can put that in here like this. Now, you're looking at this going, wait a minute, what just happened? Why is everything all funky? Let's remove this for a second, and you'll see why. Right here, we have our effector, and we can keep that, and we have our primary axis and secondary axis here. So if you look at this joint here, the calf joint, I always call them joints. I don't know if that's because I was used Maya for so long, but so you have this bone here, and we have positive y is going to be facing towards the pole vector. So anything that's the axis that's pointing towards the pole vector is going to be your secondary axis. So that's correct. We have positive y. And then the axis that goes down from the knee to the ankle needs to be the primary axis. So you can see, you can kind of, it might be difficult to see, but X is right here. And so let's see if I can see. It's not any easier to see it that way. So X is right there, and positive X, so negative X is the direction that we need to go. So let's just make this -1, and that way we have that set up. And then we need to bring in our two controls like this, and we're getting their controls. And so let's see which is which. So this is the pole vector, so calf left control. We should actually rename that. So let's double click on that and say PV IK leg left control. So now I know it's my pole vector. I'm going to take the pole vector. I don't care about rotations. I just want the translation, the position data. And I'm going to put it right here in the pole vector. Okay. And then for the foot control, I want the entire transform. And so I'm going to dump that in there like that. And then if I come up here, go like that. Now, if I grab this, move it, notice the pole vector moves with it. If I rotate it out, the knee goes out with it. And then if I really want to push the character in a direction, or I want the knee to come out a little bit, I can offset it, just like that. You know? So that's it. And so now you have your controls for, you know, any of your, so you could do the same thing for, you know, the left arm, the right arm. You could set them up just by starting with the clavicle, then going to the shoulder, down to the hand. You can set up just the FK arms. If you then want to set up IK as well as FK, you'll have to set up a switch so that you can do that as well. That's obviously a little bit more complicated and for a different video, but for right now, you now know how to come in here. You can create IK for your legs along with the pole vector. You could set up FK for the entire upper body, and you could then, once you save this, we can save it. I can come back in here, and I can actually drag this character in here. It's going to load it up into my sequencer like I mentioned before, and I can start animating and you know, plugging away. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed this process of animating or setting up the controls for control rig. Um, I hope this was informative. Stay tuned for probably some more videos on the control rig, maybe jumping into pose matching. We'll see. So that's it for today.